going to shop tires, 35s, 37s. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for your HD truck, you're looking for your half-ton truck. There's a lot of things that go into figuring out what size tire to run. So I'm going to try to go through some of that today, or what would be the right choice for you. I'm going to get in detail. I just ran a test on a 35 versus a 37, and I've got some interesting information for you on that because there's really not a lot on that test that I did. And so we're going to get into that in just a minute. But let's talk about some of the things that you've got to look for when you're looking for tires, right? You can see I've got my Ram RHO behind me. I'm running the BF Goodrich 371350 on there. This is the stock tire that came on this truck. It's a Wrangler Goodyear 325. And then this is a 35 1250 Nitto Trail Grappler, which is one of my favorite tires, okay? Now, things to take into account when you're looking at these tires is speed rating, okay? You need to figure out what your speed rating is and if you're going to run that fast. So trailer tires are the biggest because you see a lot of people buy RV tires and they go put 16 plies on, but the problem is they're buying 65 mile an hour rated tires and they get out on the interstate and they're blowing those tires out, okay? So you need to know the rating, you need to know your weight, you need to know all those things. You know, there's 121 Qs, there's 128s. 128s are made more for 3/4 ton, 1 ton trucks. The 120, 119s, that's going to be your half-ton trucks. Those tires will ride a little bit better. Now, I ran a test on that too. Questions of, does a 119, 120 ride better than a 128, depending on the tire pressure you run. Ran that test. We're going to get into that on this video too. But I'm going to cover a few other things real fast, okay? So one of the things when you're looking, speed rating, like for this truck, this is pretty much a 35 inch by 13. It's a 325. This is a 118 mile an hour rating. It is a 60 pound, 35 inch tire. This tire, if you look at it, if you look at the siping, you look at the tread pattern, this tire right here, probably one of the best riding, best driving, most fuel efficient 35s. Ram has done a really good job at choosing this tire for this truck. This truck drives like a Corvette on these tires. I love these tires, but I'm a 37 guy, so it becomes preference on what you're going to put on there, okay? Now, in the test, I put these 35s on there and ran them. This brand new set of 35-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers. Now, y'all know this is one of my favorite tires, right? Trail, mud grappler, all of it all the way around, okay? Now, this is a 123Q. It's a 35 1250, but it actually is a full-size 35, where this tire is like a 34.6. This is a full-size 35 by 13.2 or 13.3 wide, right? So it's a little bit wider and it's a little bit taller, okay? Now, the test I wanted to run on these tires was, okay, I've got a 37 on there that, let's say it weighs 78 pounds, okay? And then you've got a 35, like this one, that weighs 81 pounds. Okay, and so nobody really tells you, is it the weight that affects it or the ratio, right? Both of them play on when you're putting tires on these trucks. And the test I did was I took the 78 pound, and I'm used to driving this truck. I had a 25 RHO with the same setup, and I ran a 37. And you could run a 1250, but I like the look of the 1350, okay? And so really it boils down to the weight of the tire. I put these 35 1250s on there that weigh 81 pounds, which are 3 or 4 more pounds per tire. And the truck actually was loaded more with these. So these are going to be a little less fuel efficient than those tires are at 78 pounds. So a 37 versus 35, it's going to really depend on the weight, right? Because you think that it's the ratio. And I would say the ratio, and I've done this test in my Super Duties, y'all. The ratio has maybe 20% of that, but the actual weight of the tire, that's what you feel. That's that affected braking, that affected acceleration, your fuel efficiency, right? And so you might be able to find a 37 that weighs, let's say, 5 pounds more than your stock tire, and if you go to a 35 and you look at it and it weighs 81 pounds like this one, then you're going to feel that tire more than you would feel the 37 at a lighter weight, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so speed rating, weight rating. Okay, next thing, those are 128s. This is a 123. Now I run 36, 37 pounds in those, okay? I ran the same 36 to 37 pounds in the 123. Was there a lot of difference? There was not, okay? So can you take a 128 rated tire and run 38 pounds in it? I couldn't hardly feel a difference between that tire with 38 or 35 with 38, which actually gives the 37 more credit because you have more sidewall and more cushion with the 37 than you do with the 35, okay? So one of the things to really pay attention to is the weight of the tire. You really gotta look at that because that's what you're gonna feel on your gas pedal, that's what you're gonna feel on your brake pedal and running those tests, okay? Next thing is how they handle in rain, things like that, okay? Again, all terrains right here, if you look at this, the siping, y'all, I've ran this stock tire. We drove to Tennessee and it was just, I mean, pouring rain, cars running 30 miles an hour. Total control, probably one of the best, and all terrains are always going to give you the best ride. They don't look as aggressive, but they will give you a better ride. And so I love that tire for this, just because you can see the siping in it, you can see how this tread pattern is and how it's going to push water away. Okay, that's where the Nitto Trail right here, and y'all, I'm a Nitto Trail, Toyo fan. I like all the tires, and just so you know, for this truck, if you're trying to stay in speed rating on a 325, you can go to the Arturo Trail Blade, you can go to this tire, and then the Falcon Wild Peak, I think, is another tire. So all good tires. We're just talking about the three I'm testing so y'all can kind of see some of the differences. Now, one of the best mud terrain handling water, believe it or not, is the mud grappler. Now, I ran those 35, 37 mud grapplers on my Super Duties, and y'all, they make noise, but you could just plow through rain. And it's because the tread pattern is so spread apart on it that it just pushes that water out and makes contact with the ground. But also, if you think about it, because you have those big lugs, your pounds per square inch on that pavement, y'all, you got those two big lugs with all that weight, or three big lugs hitting the ground, so your pounds per square inch is getting really good traction to the road when you're doing that, okay? The Nitto Trail is probably my next favorite for wet weather because if you look at it right here, the water can get out. I mean, the way these tread patterns are designed, the lugs are so far apart, the water travels through these really well. I think, this is my opinion, okay? I prefer the water and the rain on the Nitto Trail versus the BF Goodrich KM3, okay? 100%. Now, as far as noise, if you look at that KM3 pattern, those lugs are a little closer together. And so that tire is a little bit quieter than this tire, okay? So my everyday driving, that wins it. But for me to get a 37 that is that size. Now, here's the trick. I'm gonna give y'all some name brands, whether you're looking for Super Duties or not. Some of the lightest tires that I know of, the ones I research, right? You look at the Nitto Recon Grappler, that's a really light, good highway tire. Probably one of the top that I know of is the Toyo RT Trail. Now, when you look at a Nitto like this, you can see it's real wide. The tire almost looks square, so its dimensions are, flat across the top. When you look at like a BFG, it's more narrow because the sidewall comes out in a curve. Okay, so when you look at actual width, sometimes some of these will look a lot wider because they're more of a square tire, where like the other tires will roll up a little bit. Now, when they roll up like that, that gives you more pounds per square inch on the top, and so they are gonna do pretty good. The wider it is and the more rubber you have on here, and the less grooves you have in it, the more it's gonna hydroplane, okay? And so things just to think about, if you're looking at those tires, just decisions on what you want. Like I said, best driving tire for me on this truck is this stock tire. I think Ram did a great job. On the HDs, the mud grappler, I love them. I mean, I think that's probably one of the best tires. Smooth, rolling, but they hum. They're loud. They make a lot of noise. But you never have any problems with wet weather, dry weather traction, nothing like that, off-road traction, but they're not gonna last, okay? The next thing you have to think about is the compound of the tire. A lot of times if you look at a tire and it's got a 45 or 50,000 mile warranty, that means the rubber compound is going to be a little stiffer. So that tire is probably going to be a little stiffer because it has that warranty with it. If you look at a tire like this that doesn't have the mileage warranty, but it's a softer compound, so it's going to ride a little bit better. It's going to give you a little more cush, okay? So do you prefer buying tires more often and having a better ride? Or do you prefer buying something that has a really good mileage warranty? It's going to be a little bit stiffer. It's up to you. You can kind of weigh those things out. But when you look at the tires, you don't really get all this information And I would say the number one thing is the weight. You just really have to look at the weight of the tires. And y'all, it's listed. If you go to Toyo's website, you go to Nitto's website, you can see those. And that's where, you know, I don't think you can really find a much lighter tire than a Toyo RT Trail. Those Toyo RT Trails, I mean, if you want to go to a 37 and not affect your mileage or your performance and stuff like that, you can look at that. You can look at the Nitto Recon Grappler. It's a pretty light tire. They're not as aggressive looking as these, but they're really good tires that have good ratings. And I mean, there's all kinds of tires out there. There's Cooper, Falcon Wild Peak. I mean, but you're gonna balance looking at the weight ratings. You know, say in a 35 1250, you may have 9 different options. You might have one in a 121, you might have one in a 124 or 126 or 128. But if you're going with the 35, I'm probably gonna look for one that has a little bit lower rating if I'm putting it on a half ton. Now, if you're putting this tire on a Super Duty, you want the, you know, the higher rating, of course. So just things to think about, you know, wet weather traction, how often you want to buy them. If you're looking for a soft compound tire, you're looking for something that's good in all weather, snow, rain. We don't have snow down here, so I can't really give you a good, you know, yes, no, it's better, worse. But, you know, I think overall, like this tire here, it's probably snow rated. You know, but down here in South Texas, this is kind of what I look at. And I generally run tires to about 40, 50% if I do at most. And then I generally throw them on Marketplace and I'll buy a new set just because they get a little bit louder as they get wore, and that's any tire that you buy. Of course, some people will want the highway tire, and you can definitely go get a highway tire, and those tires run really good too. But you're going to be on the fence of, do you want something that looks aggressive, or do you want something that's more of an all-terrain, right? And then you really need to Google the wet weather traction on the tire, whatever you buy, because you definitely don't want to go buy a set of tires and spend $2,000, and then you get out in the first rain and you're hydroplaning all over the place. You're like, what happened here? So, sorry about that. Just lots of things to think about. I'm trying to think of anything else. I haven't seen any questions pop up on here yet. Hope this live's working. This looks like it's running. But like I said, I just wanted to kind of go over some of the decisions you're going to have to make. And it's all personal preference too. You know, some people want sidewall tread. Some people don't care for that. And like I said, if you're just doing utility and you're doing a work truck, you know, you can put whatever you want to put on there. But you really need to pay attention. I'm a mix for me. I like a 1350 because the 1350s give me that wide look on like a 9 or 10 inch wheel. And it also protects for curves and stuff like that. You kind of get a roll on the tire. And I like that wide look. It's a personal preference for me, but that 1350 comes in at a price that they're heavy. And one of the main reasons I'm running this one is this 37 1350 BFG 18 is a 128, but it is under 80 pounds. And so, you know, I think second to that, if I wanted a little bit more highway tire and a little less road noise, would be the RT Trail, Toyo RT Trail. So anyway, I hope this helped with some of your decisions. Just wanted to drop this out there, talk about tires a little bit, talk about wet traction. I'm open to answer any questions, y'all. I ran a lot of different tires on a lot of different trucks. If you want to pop questions down in the comments, I'll try to answer those for you. But sorry, my throat's a little dry today. But anyway, just kind of wanted to go over this, and I wanted to do that, tell you about the test that I ran, because I really would have thought that a 37 versus a 35, that you would get all your power back with a 35, right? Just because you're going to go with the 35. But you look at these two tires right here, and there's not a lot of difference. Besides, this one is 60 pounds and this one is 80 pounds, okay? That is 20 pounds extra per corner, right? That's 40 pounds per rolling weight, or actually, that's 20, yeah, 40, that's 80 pounds of rolling weight, right? So if you're gonna add that rolling weight, you just have to expect to drop your performance and your fuel efficiency. I mean, that's just where it comes in at. Anyway, hope I answered your questions. Got any comments, drop them below, and look at your weight, look at your speed rating, get you some good tires. Catch you on the next video.